Welcome to the Buck Brief. This episode, Kurt Schlichter back in action with all of us. He is a 20-plus year veteran of the United States Army. He's also an author, writes great books, senior columnist at townhall.com, and we got some big things to jump into today. Kurt, you ready for this action?
Let's do this thing.
We have one of the most impressive. People keep calling it a espionage operation. There's a espionage component. It's really more of a sabotage and direct action or covert action operation by, it is believed to be, the Israeli government against Hezbollah terrorists all over Lebanon, and I believe into Syria as well. What's just your first shot at what the heck just happened to these guys?
Well, it really is a direct action thing. It's like people who go, well, James Bond is a famous spy. Okay, he's not really a spy. He's kind of an operator guy.
Mm-hmm.
And what an operation this was. Holy cow. You know, the Israelis are thinking leaps and bounds ahead. And I would love to figure out and unravel how they did this. My guess is they found the pager company, create a fake subcontractor, bought a bunch of pagers from somebody else, fixed them themselves, and then sold them directly to Hezbollah. I bet you Hezbollah bought them from the Israelis. I don't think they jumped on a ship and went piece by piece changing these things. What an impressive job. And it's one of those things, and this is one of my pet peeves, Buck, is that so many of our American operations are either solely information operations or solely kinetic operations, that they rarely seem to have a strategic component. This one's got it all. Okay, it's got the information component, messages, enemies and friends alike. It's got the kinetic component, and it created damage to Hezbollah's strategic capabilities. Hezbollah cannot react right now the way it should to an Israeli attack. And I'm sorry this wasn't part of a greater Israeli attack. The invasion should have come yesterday while they were in chaos. I've been very curious about why the Israelis have not treated Hezbollah as the main threat and sidelined Gaza and gone and cleaned out Lebanon. That's what I would have done on October 8th. I would have sealed off Gaza, just shot at them, killed as many as I could. But my main focus would be Hezbollah. I'd wipe that out. Then I'd come out and clean out Gaza.
What do you think? What do you think, Hezbollah, in terms of reaction to this now? First of all, they've got to be paranoid as all heck, and I think rightly so, because it wasn't just the beepers, right? It was the beepers and now the radios. Yep. So they got right into their supply chain. And it's not like they've been using beepers and radios for all that long. They realized how good the Israelis are at cell phone tracking, so they had to get off the cell net entirely for their operatives. And then the Israelis were like, you can run, but you can't hide with your little walkie-talkies and your pagers. And pagers, it's not the 90s anymore. Drug dealers and doctors, like, that's not even a thing, really. I don't even know anyone uses pagers. But Israel figured this out and pulled off a pretty incredible operation. But do you think Hezbollah does anything major in response, or are they too shell-shocked by this whole situation to really do much of anything?
I don't know what they can do at this point. They've got to assume all their comms are compromised, that their entire structure is compromised, whether directly or indirectly. I mean, Ahmed may be giving information to somebody who he thinks is, I don't know, a Saudi. Or maybe an Iranian. The guy's really Israeli. They don't know. But the Israelis have really got their number. They are, at least for 24, 48 hours, they are combat ineffective, essentially. They can fire a rocket or two, but they're not a coherent force. And frankly, I think the Israelis should have taken advantage of that by sending 5 divisions up and killing everybody in their path who's part of Hezbollah. I do want to point out, and a lot of the scumbag loser leftists in America whining like little bitches about blowing the testicles and faces off of Hezbollah guys. The Hezbollah murdered 241 Americans, primarily Marines, at the Marine barracks in at the Beirut airport in October of 1983, something that we shamefully have never gotten revenge for. So if you want to, if you have compassion and empathy for these semi-human scumbags, you're an anti-American traitor, and I've got something you can kiss. If I was a Hezbollah guy, it would have been blown off.
Mm. Yeah, I think people forget all too quickly on the left in this country, or rather, they probably don't know, and if they did know, they don't care. Hezbollah just blew up 12 kids on a soccer field a few weeks ago. 12 Israeli kids just blew them up with artillery rounds. They knew exactly what they're doing. They don't. When I say they don't care, that's not even. They're happy. I mean, this is one of the key differences I think in the conflict is when Israel kills civilians. There's an investigation, it's regrettable, and it's clearly not the intent of the action. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's not a tragedy, but it's not the intent of the action, and there are realistic efforts to try to curb that damage that happens in any war. It's a war that's being forced on the Israeli people. If Hamas could kill 1,000 Israeli toddlers tomorrow, not only would they do it, they would celebrate it. They would pin awards on the chests of the martyrs and all this other craziness. I mean, It's a death cult, man. I mean, Hamas is a death cult. So is Hezbollah.
Well, it is, and I'm getting tired of leftist Americans attempting to leverage our morality against us. I am under no moral obligation to care more about Hezbollah or Hamas's children than Hezbollah and Hamas are, and I don't. If you don't want your kids to get killed, don't start wars. If you want to start wars, don't hang around your kids. But you don't get a free pass. You start a war, you're going to die. And maybe the people around you are going to die. Do with that information as you will, but Israel's going to kill you. And I only wish, Buck, that the United States had both the moral courage and the technical savvy to do things like this. I mean, I know you work for the CIA. I know you had a positive experience. Mine was mostly dealing with semi-coherent drunks. But I don't think our CIA could pull something like this off.
I just, I wouldn't say I had a negative experience with the CIA. I wouldn't say I had a positive experience either. You know what I mean?
You had an experience.
I had an experience. I sort of did my thing, and I was like, I'm done here. And honestly, one of the big problems, I was just talking to our mutual friend Ned Ryan, who's got a book out about the DC Leviathan, right? I'll have Ned on the podcast.
Which I read the first draft of, by the way,
and
nice. Gave him some ideas.
Yeah, very nice. And I was just thinking about how, the problem is when I was in the CIA, there were super impressive people who worked at the CIA. Yeah. When I was there, they basically all left. All of them.
Yes.
None of them stayed.
Yes.
So, and some of them lasted longer than me. I was at that 6-year mark. Some of them, 5 or 6 years. Some 5 to 7 is when a lot get out. But then the number of high performers who get out before year 10 is staggering, because they're like, I'm sick of the bull crap. I don't make enough money to make this worth my time. And it's just a giant bureaucracy that doesn't want to do anything that's worthwhile. And that's the truth of most of, unfortunately, the intelligence and national security complex. That's just reality.
Yep. And the military. The military's a complete disaster. It's completely demoralized. Whether it's the DEI stuff, which is having a huge effect, whether it's the strategic lack of vision, or whether it's just the lack of character in the senior officer corps.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of these guys are getting relieved? How many of these guys are getting indicted? The Fat Leonard thing, for God's sake. And how many of them are never seriously getting punished? I mean, the old saw is, if you're an E4 and you lose your rifle, you get the Riot Act. If you're a general and you lose a war, you get another star.
Yeah, well,
and sadly, that's true.
That's true within the CIA too. If you're a little nobody and you bring your cell phone into the building, they act like they've just uncovered a Soviet mole of 20 years or something. But if you do something catastrophically stupid that results in real operational losses abroad or something, it's like, yeah, well, it was a committee decision. You know what I mean? Everybody was in on this one. Nobody's really, nobody's really responding. That's unfortunately the way that these bureaucracies function. They are. I've said this before, and I think it's important to remind people of this. It's not that they don't engender or support excellence. They're actually suspicious of it. Like, excellence is a cause for suspicion. Like, why are you doing more than the other people in this office in a way that actually helps the mission? Like, why are you going above and beyond some of your superiors with better ideas or better? Like, excellence is crushed under the foot of the giant Leviathan. That's the whole point.
Well, that's because mediocre people, the kind of people who, want to, socialize the blame. It's literally the Spider-Man meme where you have 5 different Spider-Mans pointing at each other. He's the guy who screwed it up.
And I can tell you, the people I know who stayed in the I should just say in the national security more broadly, because some of them moved around. They go to different places. The biggest ass kissers from when I was like a young guy with that sort of cadre. Now that I see who's still, because some of them have gotten jobs. They're the senior person at this agency, senior person at that agency. Like, they move around. The ass kissers are the ones who got ahead, and the talented people. I know this sounds self-serving because I'm one of them, but whatever. I mean, I did pretty well for myself leaving the agency. The talented people all left.
Yeah, you did okay.
I did okay. So I'm just saying.
Look. It's like the sales manager who fires his highest performing salesman because the guy's making more money on commissions than the sales manager's making.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
That's the guy. And that's the mindset.
I was told explicitly by a senior agency person, and he wasn't trying. He was trying to help me. He wasn't trying to. He said, "You have to understand that your job every day is to make your immediate superior look good in this place." That was what he told me. I was like, I don't know. I thought my job was to like help track and tag and bag Al Qaeda terrorists. Like, that's what I thought I was signing up for, but apparently not.
Well, if you have an effective team and you're working to make the leadership's intent successful, yeah, okay, I get that, but that's not what he was saying.
Yeah, let's come back in.
I remember this isn't new. I remember as a lieutenant, it's Lieutenant Schlichter. It's not what you do; it's how you look.
Oh yeah. Well, this is why I have another rule. I mean, we should do like a whole 3-hour sit down on this thing, just like tear it into bureaucracy. People always say to me, "How did you know that Petraeus was actually kind of a dirtbag? Like, how did you know that fill in the blank general was not some reincarnation of Cincinnatus and like Maximus from Gladiator or something? Like, how do you know?" And I'm like, because the media liked him. If the media likes him, it's because he has cultivated a persona in the media of the scholar general who like blah, blah, blah. And it's like they're running a little personal PR campaign. They're politicians in a uniform. I saw this all the time. That's why when Petraeus got caught, under the desk with his biographer and all that stuff, I was like, yeah, man, no surprise.
All adds up.
All adds up. Let's go into another subject here, assassination attempt number 2 on Donald Trump. But first up, word from our sponsor here, because across America, strange so-called accidents are becoming the new normal. You might have heard about the plane that kind of fell apart mid-flight, caught fire, and people were able to land it, but it was scary. 911 call centers going offline, or medical errors doubling since 2020. Most people understand there's something wrong with this country, but they don't know how dark it really is. The wheels are falling off. Learn what's really happening at americadisaster.com. What most Americans don't realize is in the very near future, a massive new accident may be coming to our country. This one will absolutely affect anybody with any ties to the U.S. financial system whatsoever. Learn what's coming for free. Go check out this website, americadisaster.com. That's americadisaster.com, paid for by Stansberry Research. Assassination attempt number 2 on Donald Trump. Kurt, they've already moved past it in the news cycle. They've said that Trump brought it on himself. And this is the kind of thing that even when you know what they're going to do, right, when they do it, you still have to just say, oh, my God, what is going on here?
I saw a Rasmussen poll today that some 23% of Democrats said, it'd be better if Trump was killed. And another 30% said, I'm not really sure. Okay. It's really hard to have a I would expect in a normal society, you've got a fringe of 5 to 10% weirdos, right?
Yeah.
When you have a quarter of Democrats going, I want Trump to be killed, a quarter of a major party, and that's the ones who admit it, right?
Yeah.
And another quarter
think about telling somebody Think about telling a stranger that for a second, right? Like, what, like the mentality.
I know, right?
You know, someone asked this question, like, yeah, I mean, you know, like, there's something deranged about these Democrats.
Why, yes, I do like exposing myself to children at the park. Glad you asked. I mean, what kind of degenerate? First of all, what kind of degenerate feels that way? Second of all, what kind of degenerate tells people that? But they're proud of it.
Just to be clear, that was Kurt's
this is
impression.
bad.
That was Kurt's impression of a Kamala Walls voter. There, that was
Yes.
Kurt. You guess, Kurt.
I want to make sure you know that.
You probably saw in D.C. at some like march for LGBTQ, whatever. They got like the trans guy with the fake boobs dancing in front of little kids. The whole thing, like. This is broad daylight in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital.
What's wrong with these weirdos?
A lot,
look,
unfortunately.
I think there's a backlash coming against weirdos. I mean, we had, starting in like the 60s, 70s, and continuing on, we were all kind of like live and let live, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. And that was fine until we live and let live to the part where they tried to, molest our kids. And now... I'm not so much about living and let living. I'm more like, no, I don't really want weirdos. So you're not going to, when I get power, you're not going to have your pervert parade.
Now's probably a good time to bring in our next.
You're not going to walk naked down the street. If you do, you're going to jail.
Going to bring in our next sponsor here. Good moment to do it because you want to protect your family, right? We're just talking about all the weirdos that are out there and the challenges of living in society with a lot of deranged people. The products at Sabre will help. These are less lethal products that include things like their first-in-class pepper spray launcher. Sabre is the #1 made in the USA pepper spray brand, trusted by law enforcement and families across America. Good product to start out with from Sabre is the Pepper Projectile Launcher. Less lethal, fast-loading, no recoil solution, delivering powerful stopping power up to 175 feet. Real advantage is even if you miss, it creates a 6-foot pepper cloud causing intense sensory irritation. Gives you and your family the opportunity to protect yourselves. Sabre also provides essential home security items like door and window alarms. Protect yourself and your family with Sabre's full range of defense sprays, home security tools, and exclusive launcher bundles. Great for keeping weirdos away from your family and making sure that you and yours are safe. Visit SaberRadio.com. That's SaberRadio.com or call 844-824-SAFE. 844-824-SAFE. All right, Kurt, we've got you. I got a few minutes here with you on Kamala Harris's campaign. I don't want to jinx anything, but I don't really believe in that kind of stuff. I think Kamala her campaign is in terminal decline. I don't think they can pull I think the plane has lost both engines and is heading to the base of a mountain. That's how I feel. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think there's only downhill from here. I don't think there's going to be another debate, so I don't see another event which has the real opportunity for her to change things in a major way. The Trump people aren't going anywhere. It's the undecideds who are looking at her going, okay, well, let's see what she's about. And the more they find out about her, the less people like her. Now, if she thought that people would flock to her by being exposed to her, she would be doing as many interviews as J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are. She realizes it. She is a normal person repellent. Okay? Every time she gets exposed to normal people, they dislike her. She can only go down from here. And I mean, you look at what happened recently with the Teamsters. And the Teamsters polled their own people, and something like 58% said, oh, yeah, we're behind Trump. 58% of Teamster union members. Of course, the union goes, well, it's kind of mixed among our people. We can't really, we really can't endorse anybody, but to have that giant white working class group so overwhelmingly in favor of Trump, I think is a huge message. And it's not just white working class. It's Hispanic working class. It's black working class. It's people who work for a living and are tired of being screwed over like the residents of Springfield and told, shut up, you're a racist if you complain about how you're getting the short end of the stick. I think they're tired of it. I think Donald Trump's secret of success is he's always listened to people who've been told to shut up and just take whatever they're handed. And and Kamala Harris is the quintessential person telling them to shut up and take whatever you're being handed.
Have you seen all these clips where they've now started to string them together? Any question about the economy, she starts with this: I grew up in a middle class family. Like this is the the branding, the PR machinery that they've got for her is. I sit here, I'm like, first of all, she lives, from what I understand, in like a $5 or $6 million mansion in Brentwood right now, okay, and has for a long time. This notion that she grew up in a middle class family. I mean, she's the daughter of two probably unfireable with tenure professors,
yes,
who had a combined household income of six figures. Like, she lived a very comfortable life. By the way, I have no beef with that at all. Like, that's great. I think comfortable life is great. That's my point. Is merely, like, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, it's not like. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance grows up in like a dysfunctional household. There's no money. There's alcohol abuse. He's got friends dying from fentanyl, and they're mocking him because he's done well as an adult. Like, I just feel like there's no sense of reality with these people.
Well, it's because of their deep contempt for people. She thinks that she says, I grew up in a middle-class home, like a mantra. All the idiot rubes out there will flock to her. And I think they're tired of it. And I mean, you look at a guy like JD, and boy, JD, how about that guy? I mean, he has turned out great.
I was a believer all along, early on. I said JD was going to be the vice president in January of this year. Okay, I was like, it's going to be JD Vance.
He's been fantastic. He gets out there. We have a whole generation of guys, national security guys, whether military or other, who are also smart on their feet and who've been built not only the crucible of national service, which makes you harder, but the crucible of defending your ideas. I mean, to be a normal American, I don't think he was a hardcore conservative at Yale, but to be a normal American at Yale and to stand up against the kind of communist nonsense, and Tom Cotton at Harvard, for instance, that makes you tougher. And I think a lot of these new conservatives are much tougher, much harder to pin down, much harder to mischaracterize, and much more willing to confront the regime media. He's been sensational. I love this guy. And the thing is, he's a thinker. There's depth to what he's saying. He's not repeating slogans. He's thought this stuff through and lived through a lot of it. So I'm very happy, and I think he's a huge asset to the ticket. I think he's going to wipe the floor with Tim Walz. Not that anybody's going to really care about vice presidential debate, unless Walz says something insane. But to get back to the main point, I don't see how Kamala goes up from here. I see she can only go down. And as she's told us, by the way she's kept herself from exposure, exposing Kamala Harris to normal people makes normal people dislike her.
Yes, absolutely, which is why every Democrat is hiding her and doing everything they can to cover for her, because otherwise, well, it's the absolute peak of the election cycle. You'd want to have her out there as much as possible, doing as many interviews, talking to everybody, but we can all see what's going on. Sponsor for this segment is Debt Relief from donewithdebt.com, because you didn't vote for the recession we endured or the inflation we've contended with, but you sure as heck pay for it at the pump, the grocery store, and that stack of unpaid bills. Financial stress can be crushing. The solution is donewithdebt.com. Unlike others, Done With Debt created new, aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done With Debt stands between you and bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest, and stop penalties. They have a plan to put more money in your pocket month one. And Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now, but you need to hurry because some of their debt strategies are time sensitive. You don't want to miss out. Let Done With Debt help you make money, help you make your money yours again. There we go. Visit donewithdebt.com or call 888-322-1054. That's 888-322-1054. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free or go to donewithdebt.com. Kurt, you wrote a great book, a novel about terror attacks recently that I wanted you to plug for everybody because they should go read Colonel Kurt's book.
It's called The Attack. It's a novel because I wanted to explore what a massive October 7th like attack exploiting our open border would look like. It is not so it's not a dry academic exercise. It's a bunch of stories, a bunch of characters, and I used the input of a lot of national security professionals in it, and it scared the hell out of a lot of people. It's an entertaining read. It's frightening, and I'm very happy with it. You should read it so that you'll be ready. I mean, people read this book and say, Kurt, I talked about carrying my weapon. I'm carrying it all the time.
There we go. Kurt Schlichter, everybody. Kurt, always great to see you, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.